Hey guys, welcome to the Secret History Living in Your Aquarium. What are we looking at here? We are looking at Cardinal Babaulti, and it is a green Babaulti. Usually you see the white eyes with them. This one happens to be very pregnant, and what's interesting about the pregnancy of these, unlike Neocaridina or Caridina, like Taiwan bees or other dwarf shrimp, this shrimp actually carries a ton of eggs. She's about ready to hatch them, and they're almost completely internally tucked away. You can see her legs still turning them as you would see in most dwarf shrimps, but actually, as you'll see in a sec here, well, maybe okay. I guess I guess she's done being filmed. But what I wanted to show you is that the babies are very, very small compared to Neocaridina babies. When they're first born, they are astronomically teeny. They are larval, as we say. And I know you see water stains and things on here, but this tank is the dingy tank. That's just what it does. So here is a Babaulti baby that is probably 2 to 3 months old, and some Neocaridina gold sakuras that are likely 2 to 3 weeks old. And for size, it's hard to get you something perspective wise. Let me try to find an adolescent or an adult. So here's an adolescent down here, you can see with the stripe, and then if we pan over up here, you can see the full size. So I keep them together, and there's no fish in this tank. So you can see these Neocaridina. These are Sakura yellow Neocaridina with a gold line on their back, if you're wondering what they are. You can get these at aquaticarts.com and get a big old discount off of them if you want to use one of the codes, Secret History 15 if it's your first time, or Secret History all caps 10 if it's a repeat event of coming back. But you can see they're big time algae grazers. They don't eat the hard algae, but they'll clean the snails. These are the Babaulti neon green shrimp, and you can see that they're a little more bold once they're out of their larval stage, and they'll actually eat a lot of the detritus and mulm right off of surfaces, more so than the Neocaridina that really kind of want food or algae exclusively. The Babaultis will eat their own castings in the tank. They tend to hide a little bit more on as a general rule. Here's that female again, but they have a really cool chameleon like color pattern, in that up here you can see one that's in its calm normal color pattern, which is like a lime green, and then its insides have a tangerine kind of color to it. But from certain light it looks dark green, so they have this kind of color changing effect of their in their body anyways. And then besides that, they also have an ability to change colors on command as they're hiding or adapting. Here you see some really new, really teeny, I mean, this is a piece of duckweed, a single piece of duckweed, and here is a planaria, which I'm going to get out in one moment, but that is a baby Babaulti shrimp. So what I was going to tell you is that pregnant female, she is actually, she's going to have probably close to 100 babies. I got the planaria out of there in a turkey baster. So for size comparison, there's those baby Neocaridinas. There's this. These aren't quite adults here, but there's an adult right up there. So you can kind of get the size comparison idea there. There's the adult. So, and that's a good 6 inches behind the bowl. So, and here's a juvenile on the glass versus these are probably a month or two old. So really, it is really impressive how teeny these babies are. They're very teeny. Let's see if we can find one right next to. So this is still a juvenile, and we've got an adult shrimp right here. There we go. That is a baby Babaulti shrimp right there. If you can see it, that is probably a month old that you see in the background, and then the one in the foreground, this one here that looks a little more green or clearish green, that one's probably 2 to 3 months old, like I was saying, and then there's a Neocaridina baby. But yes, they're much smaller. Even at a month old, as you see, they're almost the size of the eggs of the Neocaridina. So here is a Neocaridina baby of the same age, and again, a Babaulti baby. Now these are found several places. You find them from Indonesia to India, and there are quite a few different variations, and that's why I say Caridina Babaulti, because we're not really sure which one this is, because there are a lot of them, and this one changes from tangerine color to a green color, and it is thought that this is the variety brought in from India. There's also a zebra stripe, purple striped Babaulti as well. This one happens to turn a nice tangerine and yellow hue, but it also can turn brown, it can turn completely translucent, and as I said, these babies are just everywhere. Now, because of that, they're not really good to have with any fish, period, because any fish is going to be able to fit those babies in its mouth. So it's a long waiting game. It takes much longer for these babies to reach a size, that you can even see them very well, because they're clear. They hide even in the glass tank. They hide. Here's a Babaulti adult here and a juvenile, and this is probably a young juvenile here, and this is an older juvenile to adult. Let's see. Yeah, that's an older juvenile, as well as a juvenile Neocaridina right there for size comparison. But yeah, they've got a little bit different head structure, a little bit different shoulder structure than the Neocaridina. They've got a flatter head, and they're definitely more nocturnally active as a whole. This is around 11 p.m. in the evening, and the lights are set to turn off any minute now. So I just wanted to show you guys that the Babaultis are doing well. It is, in my experience, trickier to actually get them to reproduce. They will just do it, and usually it's one. So as we see a Babaulti swimming by right now, that's a male, and they just don't seem to like Neocaridinas. You'll see that a bunch got pregnant around the same time of the month or season. Like this one's pregnant. This one is saddled, so she will probably be pregnant soon, and already 2 other pregnant ones have passed us by, plus all the pregnant ones hanging out under here. They seem to really like, I don't know what about it under there, but they really like eating the algae and getting the aeration. So right now, what I'm fighting is a planaria outbreak. However, I'm also keeping tabs on the fact that the planaria really haven't been as detrimental as I've always thought they were to the shrimp. I mean, there are no fish in this tank, and it's the first time I've done Babaultis in a 20 long rather than a 10 gallon, and having the bigger tank is definitely a must, I'm learning. I've had a lot of colonies fail with Babaultis at one point or another, just because if you don't get them reproducing, it can be a long time before one pregnancy turns into adult aged, ready to reproduce babies. So what I'll probably do this time now is, now that there's all these babies growing up, and of there's definitely three separate broods going on here. We've got the brand new ones, the ones that are a couple months old here. Come on, here, and some of them, like I said, are like an amber or a peach or a tangerine color, and others are a solid dark forest green, and some can turn all the way to an orange. But yeah, so they vary a lot in color, by mood, by gender. The females can actually get a lot darker in color, unlike fish, and they're just a really nice, peaceful shrimp to have. I think, in fact, I know they go great in a tank with fish as adults, and they will live quite a while. They'll live several years, and get up to about the size of these Neocaridina hanging out over here. But they just take so long that, you know, it would be, it's not like Neocaridinas where they're born as little versions of their parents and then they just skedaddle for about a month. They kind of lay low and then they're ready to go. These guys are so small, you definitely cannot gravel vac while you have them. I don't even do water changes for about 3 months right after they hatch, if I can pay attention. I had a dozen in this colony to start with, and from there I would guess there's probably about 200 babies that have been born if I were to pick through all of the dense cover that I've given them. And there's probably a good 50 young Neocaridina in here and 20 adult Neocaridina yellows in here with them. Now, they don't seem to fight. They don't seem to be competitive whatsoever with one another. But as I said, the babies are just so small for so long that it can be a trick. You really need to have, you know, whether you want to use something like Bacter AE as a supplement for them, or, you know, algae wafers or something, break them up really well. It's going to be a mess in your tank, but in the long run, it gives them just so much more grazing room. And you really want just a layer of, if you run your finger through the tank, you want to feel just kind of a slimy algae layer with these guys. They don't need a pH that's super low or high. I just wanted to show that by the fact that this water's not buffered. It's about 7. It's about neutral, actually. And yeah, the TDS is low. I would say it's about 100 or 70, probably 70 to 100 with the wood in there currently. But yeah, here's an adult. And I know that it's hard to see because there's broken glass inside. And I actually love this. It was an accident originally in that there was a bowl in there to be surface area and kind of a little area for some fish to breed. Originally it fell off its thing and it already had all this algae on it, and the shrimp like grazing on the Aufwuchs, which I have videos on, which means the little combination of bacteria, fungi, and algae that grows on surfaces. You can see it here. It's got some debris caught in it. But yeah, that's all I have to do, and that keeps the babies fed. But these little babies will be grazing for a very long time. You can see just how teeny they are. They definitely cannot be with any fish whatsoever because they stay that size for months. But they're a fun fish, or a fun invertebrate. You can see they change colors with their moods, and they just move around a lot in the evening and in the early morning, and they just have a lot of personality. They're kind of fun. And see, this is what I was talking about, was their flat head. They have a very flat head. They have extra whiskers and sensory antennas, and then they have kind of a wood grain pattern to them if they're colored up in the dark colors. You see it picking through the actual like fecal matter and mulm that's on the ground there from the Neocaridina. So they kind of complement each other in that they clean up the waste of the Neocaridinas a little bit extra. And you'll see the babies kind of following around after the adults Here you can see one's actually using the facilities, and it's just such a fine nothingness that they leave as they're casting. So yeah, just a great shrimp in general. Aquatic Arts is one of the very few places that I've seen regularly carrying them. They can be a little expensive, which I think is good, because when you raise them, it can take a while, and they can be fidgety. If you have any other fish, or you know, a mono shrimp could be bad. Some other Cardinals are bad, but they're worth it in my opinion, and so it keeps the price in the hobby up a little higher. You know, you can pay somewhere between $8 and $12 usually for these guys, and I think that's a fair price, because they're usually about a year old if they're this size, in most cases, that is. Alright guys, well that's all I've got for you on this subject. They were just out and about, and this tank, I know it looks like a mess, but they are flourishing. And just a little cheapo Amazon sponge filter here, I can put some links below into that. And they're just doing their little march up the rim to eat each evening. A lot of times they'll cluster all in one corner and eat somewhere where there's been a flare up of bacterial growth or something, or maybe even algae, and they're just fun and interesting. They move in ways like zigzags and accordion, like an inchworm, which is really fun to watch. It's just different than the Neocaridina stiffness of the Neocaridina, which has kind of a jump backwards really fast move, and then just kind of a almost crawl stroke swimming movement. So fun aquatic feature, and yeah, if you want them, you can check that out. Sometimes Arizona Gardens has them, or someone else, but essentially that is the rundown. I will talk to you guys later. If you have any questions, comments, or you just want to tell me, hey, that was a good video, I'd like to see more of your oddball shrimp. I've got a lot of different odd species that maybe aren't as flashy as some of the other ones, but to me, they're all really interesting. The fact that they eat upside down off the surface constantly. I mean, Neocaridina can do that too, but they'll turn that golden color. So when looking up from the bottom, they look like the golden color of the leaves in the water for a predator. And then their belly will be green. So if you were to look at them from above, they're actually green, which it's hard to see the subtleties in that. They'll also kind of hang out together even with their babies. They'll stick together in groups, which is a nice little way to watch them, and kind of gives them a little bit of a personality. You can kind of add it to them in your mind, a little more human in their behavior, perhaps. So, alright guys, that's all I got. I know I already said that, but this time I'm really out of here. Talk to you later. Take care of the people around you, the critters you care for, and most of all, make sure you're taking care of yourself, because we need you. Alright guys, swim on. Bye.